Yes. So, as we already talked about the legacy of the British and the legacy of the Indian national movement on India. So, now what we are going to do is we are going to discuss about the topic of constitution making of India. Yes, this is a highly relevant topic, and it is something which is at the interface between the polity and the history sections. Okay, and in the constitution making of India, okay, so usually in polity section they will talk about the legal issues in the constitution making, but let's try to look at the historical perspective of the constitution making of India. Okay, what are the circumstances in which the Indian constitution was created, or how it was made? What are the factors behind the making of the constitution? How the demand for the setup of the Constituent Assembly it came about? All these things we are going to discuss, sir. And in fact, the first leader of Indian national movement who has put forward the demand for setting up of a Constituent Assembly to the Britishers is a communist leader by the name of M.N. Roy. And M.N. Roy has put forward this demand in the year 1934, okay, in order to create a separate Constituent Assembly for India, sir. Then after that, in the year 1936, C. Rajagopalachari, okay, so on the official platform of Indian National Congress also, he also put forward the same demand in order to set up a Constituent Assembly which contains only Indians in order to create a constitution for India, sir. Then after the demand of C. Rajagopalachari, the Britishers have for the first time accepted, okay, the setup of a Constituent Assembly for India, and they set up the Constituent Assembly under this plan which is called as Cabinet Mission Plan, sir. And the Cabinet Mission Plan, it was supposed to set up the Constituent Assembly for India, and for setting up the Constituent Assembly, what the Britishers did is, for the Cabinet Mission Plan, they have under the Cabinet Mission Plan, they have created a plan for making the Constituent Assembly, and this Constituent Assembly was supposed to be a united Constituent Assembly for the entire Indian subcontinent. Okay, so this was because by the time of the Cabinet Mission Plan, the partition was not accepted, sir. Okay, partition was accepted by the Indian government on 3rd June of 1947, and Cabinet Mission Plan led Constituent Assembly, it was set up in 1946, sir. So because of which reason, this Constituent Assembly was a Constituent Assembly for India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, or today's Bangladesh. All these three states put together, they created a singular Constituent Assembly, sir. And you might be knowing that this Constituent Assembly elections, they were in fact indirect elections which have been conducted, and the indirectly elected candidates, they were in fact voted to the Constituent Assembly by the provincial legislatures, and the provincial legislatures were in turn elected by the people on the basis of limited franchise, and only 15% of the Indian population they participated in the election for provincial legislatures. Primarily because at that point of time the Britishers did not give universal adult franchise, only 15% को voting right था, और वो लोग vote करके they elected the provincial legislative assemblies. And these provincial legislative assemblies or state assemblies, they in turn voted for the members of the Constituent Assembly. And along with the elected or indirectly elected members of the Constituent Assembly, there were also nominees of princely states who were invited to the Constituent Assembly. Okay, nominees of princely states and British Indian provinces, indirectly elected members, all of them they gave to the Constituent Assembly. And when the Constituent Assembly was convened, parallelly, what happened is, once Indian National Congress entered into the Constituent Assembly, Muslim League, which was a popular party in the regions of today's Pakistan and Bangladesh, what this party did is, it in fact started demanding for, okay, separation of Pakistan, a Muslim majority region, from the Indian Union, sir. And because of this demand of creation of separate Pakistan, okay, what happened is, in the Constituent Assembly, the Muslim League, it did not permit the Indian National Congress in order to pass any resolution or take up any decision, sir. Either it boycotted the Constituent Assembly completely, or when it participated, it started creating a lot of trouble in the Constituent Assembly, sir. Okay, whatever thing is being discussed, okay, they will take the slogans of Pakistan Jindabad. They will not permit any resolution to be passed, and they usually used to walk out of the assembly, or apart from walking out of the assembly, they sometimes used to go to the well of the speaker, okay, in order to protest against the Indian Constitution. So this way they were creating numerous problems for, okay, the Indian National Congress in the Constituent Assembly, sir. Are you following this? Okay, and when they were creating these kind of problems and tussles, what happened is, Jawaharlal Nehru, he passed a resolution which is called as Objectives Resolution, and this Objectives Resolution, it was passed even before, okay, even before the partition happened, sir. Before the partition happened, objectives resolution was passed, and this is a very, very important resolution which shows to us what kind of constitution we were getting ready to create, okay, before partition of the country. But post partition of the country, what happened is many of the provisions of objectives resolution, they are conveniently forgotten, and whatever rest of the provisions are there, they were integrated as part of the preamble of the Indian Constitution. I think you might be knowing about objectives resolution finally becoming the preamble of the Indian Constitution, but whatever the contents of the objectives resolution are, they are not exactly replicated in the preamble, sir. Many of the provisions were dropped, okay, and why they were dropped we need to understand, sir. And along with that, UPSC also in the year 2012, they asked a question on objectives resolution, and there is a high possibility prelims question on objectives resolution, sir. In fact, the first and foremost aim of objectives resolution is it wanted to convert India into a sovereign independent republic. Just check it once. Sovereign democratic republic it wanted to convert India to. Yes, sovereign democratic republic status they wanted to bring about to India. Sovereign independent republic. Just check it once. In the handout, objectives resolution wala major heading के नीचे है. Okay, they wanted to independent sovereign republic is something which they wanted to make India into. Then along with that, the objectives resolution has very clearly stated that we are going to create an India or an Indian constitution with weak center and strong states. This is very, very important. They wanted to create India with a weak center and strong states, and as part of this weak center and strong states based government, they made a statement saying that, okay, India is going to be a union of states where the states will have autonomy of their own. Autonomy means maximum powers will be given to the state government, and along with that, in the Indian constitution, the residuary powers of the government will also be given to the state governments. बोलके the objectives resolution में clearly बताया गया था, sir. But what happened? Okay, this provision was completely neglected after partition of the country. We created a union with the strong union government and weak state governments, and residuary powers also be placed with the central government now. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? So this is the case with this. So what happened is in the objectives resolution, the second provision was completely neglected, sir. Then the third provision of objectives resolution is the objectives resolution promised protection and rights to the minorities and the backward classes of India, sir. But this provision of protections to minorities and backward classes, it is not present in the Indian preamble, sir. Preamble say A, B neglect kiya gaya tha, sir. Then apart from neglecting this provision, one provision which has been integrated into the final constitution of India is the promise of freedom, the promise of justice, and the promise of fraternity, and the promise of equality, which are part of India's today's constitution. They were already part of the objectives resolution, sir. Freedom of thought, expression and stuff. Then apart from that, equality of opportunity, then justice for people. So which are part of the Indian preamble today, they were all part of the objectives resolution, sir. Are you following this? Then after this, the next provision of the objectives resolution, is the objectives resolution, apart from the protection of minority rights, apart from sovereign independent republic, apart from this weak center and strong states, the objectives resolution also promised that India is going to endeavor, for international peace is one more provision of objectives resolution, sir. But this endeavoring for international peace, it was also neglected from the preamble of Indian constitution, sir. Are you following this? So these are the important provisions of the objectives resolution which are not part of the Indian preamble. Are you following this? Whereas the other provisions, they have been integrated into the Indian constitution, and the objectives resolution promise of, weak center and strong states, it was conveniently forgotten post partition of the country, sir. Is it clear? And after passing the objectives resolution, and when we had a united constitution for both India and Pakistan, why did the Indian government accept for the partition of the country is the question, sir. When there was a united constitution, assembly for both India and Pakistan, why did we finally accept for the partition of the country is something which we need to understand, sir. And the first reason for accepting partition is because of the British pressures. Because the British threatened Indians that if you are not going to create a constitution for yourself, we are going to completely balkanize your country. Balkanize means we are going to divide your country and transfer the power to the state governments rather than to a single central government is one threat which the Britishers have given. Then the second threat which the Britishers have given is they in fact very clearly stated that if India doesn't accept for partition, so this was not the threat of the Britishers. And the second thing is there were communal riots happening across India leading to deaths of thousands of people, sir. And these communal rights are primarily engineered by the Muslim leagues. And when they were being engineered by the Muslim League, what happened is the Britishers did not control these communal rights properly, sir. And this also put pressure on Indian National Congress. Continuously communal rights एक के बाद एक होते ही जा रहे हैं, so we are forced to accept the partition of the country. And the third thing is the Muslim League is not participating in the Constituent Assembly. अगर मुस्लिम लीग का मेंबर्स पार्टिसिपेट ही नहीं किया तो कैसे रेजोल्यूशन पास करेंगे? अगर हम लोग एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इनैक्ट किया तो भी मुस्लिम लीग विल स्टेट इट दैट दिस इज ए हिंदू कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. Are you following this? So because of these three factors and many more factors, what happened is India accepted for the partition of the country, sir. And once the partition of the country happened, the Constituent Assembly, it got divided into the representatives of India and the representatives of Pakistan, sir. Are you following this? And initially the total number of elected members were 299 and they came down to 229, sir. Nearly 72 members they went to Pakistan. Then apart from that, the princely states representatives were somewhere around 72. So the total number of Constituent Assembly members was somewhere around 300 members. They participated in the Constituent Assembly, sir. Clear? So this is one important thing. Then after that, in the constitution making process of India, there were thriving debates between the various sections of the Indian society in the Constituent Assembly, sir. And the constitution making process, it went through some stages. It was not a process which was done in one go, sir. The constitution making, it went through 5 stages. And the first stage is called as the committee stage, sir, wherein the Constituent Assembly was divided into various committees and each committee was allocated one subject matter to discuss and to make a proposal to the total assembly, sir. Are you following? You might be knowing that Indian Parliament also right now has numerous parliamentary standing committees. So these committees, they in fact discuss various subject matters thoroughly and they will submit a report to the Parliament, right? Similarly, these constitutional committees were also discussing various subject matters. And after a thoroughgoing discussion, in the first stage, they will submit one recommendation to the Constitution, sir, Constituent Assembly. And then the constitution making process goes to the second stage. And in the second stage, the most important person is B.N. Rao, sir. You might be knowing about the constitutional advisor to the Constituent Assembly. And this was B.N. Rao. And what B.N. Rao did is, in the second stage, by taking the recommendation of the Constitutional Committee का recommendation is लिया और लेने के बाद what he did is he studied constitutions of the various constitutions across the world, sir. And he searched for similar provision in any other constitution. Then after that, in proper legal language, he has put the recommendation of the commission for the Constituent Assembly, sir. आपको समझ में आ रहा है? Okay, this is the second stage of constitution making. Then after that, the third stage will come into picture. And the third stage is the stage of the drafting committee of the constitution, sir. When all the recommendations of B.N. Rao, they are in fact merged together, and if any inconsistency is there between the recommendations, all these inconsistencies are resolved. And what happened is, in the third stage, a draft constitution is created by taking all the recommendations of B.N. Rao and resolving the conflicts between them. आपको समझ में आ रहा है? Okay, so this is one more thing that was done, that is done in the third stage. And in this stage, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he played a very important role, sir. Then after this stage, the fourth stage is the constitution was put for public commentary, sir. Okay, it was in fact put for public commentary. Okay, so if you want to study, you can sit in that room. Okay, you can sit in that room and study. So yes. Okay, so the third stage is where was I? Okay, the third stage is the stage drafting committee. Okay, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar created a unified constitution. Then after that, the fourth stage is a stage for public comment, sir. Okay, fourth stage में क्या हुआ? Public comment चला. Okay, and in public commentary, what happened is it was submitted to the public in order to review the constitution. Then along with that, there was also the discussion in Constituent Assembly on each provision of the drafting committee, sir. On each provision of the drafting committee, they were having some recommendations and there were negotiations, voting was there. Okay, and this was the fourth stage of the constitution making. Then after that, the fifth and last stage of the constitution making is the stage of enactment, sir. And in the stage of enactment, provision by provision, every provision of the constitution is enacted, but now each provision should be supported by a consensus of all the members of the Constituent Assembly, sir. Whatever voting करना था, वो पहले ही हो गया. Okay, अभी क्या है? Enactment का stage. Enactment के stage में Indian Constituent Assembly did not permit any opposing voting, sir. No opposing voting. The only voting that is permitted is the vote with consensus, sir. Are you following this? Okay, because they wanted to create a constitution which is accepted by everyone of the Constituent Assembly. They did not want to divide the Constituent Assembly. So that is the reason why they fixed that the last stage of the constitution making, it should be based on consensus and agreement by every member of the Constituent Assembly. Sir. I say 5 stages में constitution का enactment हो गए sir. And once the 5 stages of the constitutional enactment have happened, the thing is, okay, we might be thinking that in the Constituent Assembly there was not much controversy. Everyone has agreed to every provision. So that is what usually is projected, sir. But the thing is, in the Constituent Assembly of India, there were some thriving debates on some subject matters, sir. And one of the subject matter where there was a thriving debate in the Constituent Assembly of India is, okay, first issue on which there was a thriving debate is with respect to the ideals of socialism versus capitalism. Okay, some of the members of the Constituent Assembly, they were strong supporters of capitalism, sir. They did not accept the idea of Nehruvian socialist ideology. And there was a thriving debate. And here, the capitalist faction is led by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and the socialist faction is led by Jawaharlal Nehru. And because of the conflict between these two people, most of the socialist principles of the Indian Constitution, they were sent to the directive principles of state policy, sir. Because directive principles of state policy, there is no compulsion to implement them. They are just like directives to the government and they can implement them whenever they want to in future. Are you following this, sir? And Patel's success is in, okay, diverting the socialist ideology of Nehru from the implementable part of the constitution to non-implementable part of the constitution, sir. That is his brilliance. Then apart from this, Patel also insisted upon including right to property in Indian constitution, sir. Okay, he was in fact very insistent upon including right to property in the Indian constitution. And across the world, no socialist country's government's constitution declares right to property as a fundamental right, sir. Okay, but Patel was very insistent on including right to property as a fundamental right, primarily because he knew very well that, okay, अगर मैं रहे ना रहे, कि नेहरू को तो तंग करना ही करना है. Whether I am there or not there, in future, this provision of right to property is going to create a problem to Nehru. In fact, this is the provision, okay, which led to the first Constitutional Amendment Act in 1951. Immediately after the death of Vallabhbhai Patel and the first general election, okay, Indian government, it passed the first Constitutional Amendment Act in order to undermine the right to property, sir. And right to property, it remained a, okay, very controversial topic between the Indian Supreme Court and Indian Executive. And this is one of the reasons for conflict between, okay, Indira Gandhi and the Supreme Court, sir. Right to property, primarily because he believed in the concept of liberalism, sir. Okay, right to property, if it is there, then what will happen is the government cannot take over the properties, or it cannot, okay, what do you call it? Okay, it cannot nationalize. It cannot nationalize properties. If nationalization is followed, then there will be no economic freedom. Okay, आप जिंदगी भर बहुत मेहनत करके, okay, एक एकड़ का plot कहीं लिया. Suddenly the government comes and says that, okay, this is not your land. From tomorrow on, this is my land. Isn't it unfair, sir? Yes. So because of which reason only Patel was dead against this kind of nationalization program, sir. He was a supporter of capitalism. Okay, so in fact, this right to property, it became such an important article in the Indian Constitution that it led to numerous Supreme Court cases and numerous conflict between the executive and judiciary, sir. Are you following this? Okay, this is one more important outcome of the right to property provision. This is one area where there was a lot of conflict. Then the second area where there was a lot of conflict is with respect to the issues of federalism, sir. Because some people supported a strong central government, some others supported, okay, a strong state government, sir. And there was a lot of conflict between these federalists and the people who are centrists, sir. Centrists and federalists के बीच में बहुत सारा conflict हुआ था. And इस conflict में भी most of the people who supported the state's powers, what they did is they had issues with the issue of division of powers, sir. Okay, division of powers के issue पे उसका controversy था. Then उसके साथ साथ में they also had a controversy over the issue of, okay, division of powers का एक issue पे, and the powers of governor also became a very controversial subject matter, sir. Are you following this? So powers of governor and the division of powers are the two controversial subject matters, and they were discussed thoroughly. But Jawaharlal Nehru, what he was able to do is he, along with Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, they supported a strong central government, sir. Primarily because just now they have seen the partition problem, and they don't want, okay, India to get further sub-partition into numerous territories, sir. So that is the reason why they supported a strong central government, And as part of the strong central government itself, in the federal debate of India, they favored a strong central government and weak state government, and forgetting the promise of objectives resolution, they moved the residuary powers to the centralists. समझ में आ रहा है आप लोगों को? ये सेकंड वाला कंट्रोवर्सी था. उसके साथ में the third controversy, which was in fact a very important controversy in the Constituent Assembly, is the language controversy. Okay, particularly the issue of official language, national language. Okay, ये सब issues पे भी बहुत ज्यादा debate and discussion हुआ था सर. Then apart from the language issue, there was also a controversy with respect to whether we should follow a presidential form of government or a prime ministerial form of government बोल के. So इसके बीच भी okay बहुत ज्यादा controversy हुआ था सर. Are you following this? So these are the important areas, okay, where there was conflict and contradiction, okay, between the Constituent Assembly and within the Constituent Assembly. So these are some of the important debates in the Constituent Assembly, sir. Are you following this? Okay, just I'll have a look at, did I miss any of the debates and discussions? Socialism? Yes, one more debate which in fact was very important in the Constituent Assembly is the debate between, okay, the Panchayat Raj system of Gandhiji, okay, and the people who opposed the Panchayat Raj system, sir. Okay, the people who opposed the Panchayat Raj system are called as constitutionalists, and the people who supported the Panchayat Raj system are called as Gandhians, sir. Okay, these Gandhians, what they did is they in fact wanted to create a country, okay, with a weak central government, with most of the powers being given to the Panchayat Raj institution, sir. Okay, but the problem is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was very critical of this provision, primarily because he felt that if most of the powers of governance are transferred to the Panchayat system, okay, if they are transferred to the Panchayat system, what will happen is in the rural areas of India, the caste system is very, very strong. And most of the power will be captured in rural areas by the upper caste. So because of which Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he was dead against this Panchayat Raj system, sir. Are you understanding this? In fact, he used to say that, okay, so Gandhi used to say that India lives in its villages. Whereas Ambedkar used to say that where India lives, there Dalit dies. Okay, this was the statement of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar against the Gandhian supporters. And finally, in this debate, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he emerged victorious. And in Indian government, when the constitution was enacted, there was no provision for Panchayat Raj system, sir. We had integrated it into the Indian constitution through 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. But originally in the constitution, there was no place for Panchayat Raj system, sir. आपको समझ में आ रहा है मैं क्या बोल रहा हूं? So there was no place for Panchayat Raj system, primarily because of the criticism of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Okay, so then along with that, there was also a discussion between secular state versus Hindu state, sir. Okay, because Pakistan declared itself to be an Islamic state. Okay, so that is the reason why what happened is there was a demand in the Constituent Assembly to declare India as a Hindu state, sir. Okay, but this demand to declare India as a Hindu state, it was not accepted by majority of the members, and they finally went for declaration of India as a secular state, sir. Are you following this? Primarily because by this time we need to understand one thing, sir. In the partition of the country, one second. The slide is not there. Okay, so I have dictated the content. Okay, I'll dictate it for you guys also, don't worry. Okay, or you can write it down. Any which way is fine for me. So here we need to understand this. See, the thing is, when India and Pakistan are partitioned, sir, in fact, the demand of Pakistan is based on the idea of separate state for the Muslims of India. That was the core idea. Okay, but the thing is, when Pakistan was finally created, it took only 70 million Muslims from the Indian territory, sir. How many Muslims? It was able to take out only 70 million Muslims, both in the Pakistan of today and Bangladesh of today. 17 million Muslims, they became part of Pakistan, sir. But nearly 60 million Muslims, they were left behind in India. Okay, and when we had such a huge minority population, and Indian population at the point of time was somewhere around some 300 million people, sir. And of these 300 million people, almost 1/5 of the population is the minority. Are you understanding this? So because of this 1/5 being minority in India, what the Indian government did is, Indian government did not declare itself as a Hindu state, primarily because, okay, in a Hindu state, the Muslims will become a second-class citizens. Yes, and any true meaning of democracy is nothing but democracy is the rule by majority Always remember this, sir. Democracy is a rule by majority with protections to the minorities. Democracy is not just a rule by majority, it is rule by majority with protection of the minority rights. And if the minority rights are not protected, and if only the majority rules, then it cannot be considered as a democracy, sir. समझ में आ रहा है आप लोगों को? So that is the reason why, even though Hitler was elected democratically by the people of Germany, he is not considered as a democratic leader, sir. Because in Hitler's state, there is no protection for minority. Are you understanding this? So that is the reason. So this is the case with India, and these are the important debates. Then apart from the debates, okay, in the Indian Constituent Assembly, there were some important committees in the Indian Constituent Assembly, sir. And these committees and who are the chairman, they are not given properly in any textbook. So I have included all the names of the committees, and I'll make you mark some of the most important committees here, sir. Is it making sense? Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? Yes. So just have a look at this committees, sir. Just have a look at the committees which are present in the Indian Constituent Assembly. Okay, so if you look at the major committees of the Indian Constituent Assembly, one is drafting committee headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Then most of the other important committees of the Constituent Assembly, they were led either by Jawaharlal Nehru or by Vallabhbhai Patel, sir. One of these two people, they always became the chairmen of the various committees which have been established. If you look at the Union Power Committee, it is headed by Jawaharlal Nehru. Union Constitution Committee, Jawaharlal Nehru. Provincial Constitution Committee is headed by Vallabhbhai Patel. Then Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights, Minorities and Tribal and Excluded Areas, it is headed by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, sir. Are you following this? This is a very, very important committee of the Indian Constituent Assembly. And of these committee, there are some committees which you need to remember, sir. One is the Fundamental Rights Subcommittee is headed by J.B. Kripalani, sir. It is important, J.B. Kripalani. Then the subcommittee for Northeast Frontier Tribal Areas, it is headed by Gopinath Bardoli. It is important, you highlight that name, Gopinath Bardoli. Okay, Gopinath Bardoli. Then after that, okay, the tribal areas within the Indian subcontinent, for them, the chairman is this person by the name of, okay, A.V. Thakkar or Thakkar Bapa. Okay, so he is a very famous tribal rights activist of India. He is a strong follower of Gandhiji, and he was given the charge of, okay, in fact, dealing with the tribal areas of the mainland India. The tribal areas of Northeast India were led by Gopinath Bardoli, and his recommendation led to the inclusion of 6th schedule into the Indian Constitution. And okay, the recommendation of Thakkar Bapa, it led to the inclusion of 5th schedule in the Indian Constitution, sir. समझ में आ रहा है आप लोगों को? Okay, so what I'm trying to say, so this is the case with the major committees, and the Rules of Procedure Committee is headed by Rajendra Prasad, sir. Here, Rules of Procedure Committee is headed by the Rajendra Prasad. Then States Committee, okay, is headed by Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, Jawaharlal Nehru, he is the head of the States Committee, but the State Constitutional Committee is headed by Vallabhbhai Patel, sir. Are you following this? There is a difference between them. Then along with that, Steering Committee ka bhi Rajendra Prasad he chairman tha. Okay, Steering Committee, Rajendra Prasad is the chairman. Then National Flag Committee is headed by Rajendra Prasad. Okay, Flag Committee by Rajendra Prasad. Steering Committee, Rules of Procedure Committee was headed by him. Okay, then along with that, you see this Language Committee, sir. It is headed by this person called Moturi Satyanarayana. Okay, Moturi Satyanarayana is the important person here. So then it was headed by him. Then along with that, okay, so where was this drafting committee members? Yes. Okay, just have a look at this. Rajendra Prasad was elected as the president of the Constituent Assembly, and the vice president of the Constituent Assembly is this person by the name of Harendra Kumar Mukherjee. And the Constituent Assembly had two vice presidents, not one. One is Harendra Kumar Mukherjee, the second one is T.T. Krishnamacharya, sir. T.T. Krishnamacharya is the second one. Okay, and the first one is Harendra Kumar Mukherjee. Then after that, okay, so there was also this drafting committee. Understand this carefully, sir. And drafting committee, it had 8 members, and this can be asked as a prelims question, sir. Chairman is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Then along with that, okay, there are 6 members of the committee were K.M. Munshi, Mohammad Sadullah, Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, Gopala Swamy Iyengar, N. Madhavrao, who was replaced, he replaced B.L. Mittar, who died. Then T.T. Krishnamacharya, he replaced D.P. Kathiyan, sir. Okay, so these are the important people. This can be asked as a very, very good prelims question. So you just develop a mnemonic for them, sir. Okay, उनका नाम के लिए एक mnemonic develop कर लीजिए. So that would be better for you. So these are the various committees of the Indian Constituent Assembly, sir. Clear? So this way, through thoroughgoing discussion and debate, by 1950, okay, almost after 13 days short of 3 years, sir. Okay, we in fact debated and discussed for 2 years, 11 months. Okay, 17 days is the time which has been taken to make the Constitution of India, sir. Are you following this? Okay, so this is important. So then 13 days short of 3 years, what we did is we enacted our Constitution. Okay, and in the enactment of our Constitution, the preamble has clearly stated that it is the people of India who have given to themselves the Constitution of India. Yes or no? Preamble states this, right? We the people of India, okay, enact and give to ourselves the Constitution which we are made, right? Yes. So this way it was declared, and the Constituent Assembly finally it concluded its discussion, sir. Then after this Constituent Assembly, the next important area which we need to focus upon is, okay, we need to focus on the essential features of the Constitution. And if you look at the essential features, one is preamble, second one is fundamental rights, directive principles, parliamentary democracy, federation with strong center, secularism, and universal adult suffrage. Okay, universal adult suffrage means voting rights for everyone. So this is one more provision which has been included, and with these all provisions, the Indian Constitution is enacted, sir. Clear? Then, apart from the enactment of the Constitution, the next important thing which happened, okay, so in fact during the time of Indian independence is, there was a very, very famous speech given by Jawaharlal Nehru, okay, when India is getting its independence, which is called as the Tryst with Destiny speech, sir. Okay, Tryst with Destiny, and here the tryst that he is talking about, tryst means agreement. The agreement that he is talking about is, he is referring to the 1929 Lahore session of Congress, sir. Because in the 1929 Lahore session of the Congress, the declaration of independence was made, and he is referring to that day, and he is saying that the agreement or the contract which has been drawn in 1929 in Lahore session, that is being fulfilled today. Are you following this? Okay, so and in order to declare the independence from the British rule in such a pure English language that even the Britishers were forced to refer to their dictionaries. Okay, utna bahut kadwa English mein. So that good, not kadwa, okay, so good English mein. So what he has done is, he has declared the independence of India as Tryst with Destiny speech, sir. Here we usually always discuss about the message which has been given to India by Nehru, right? Okay, but we never talk about what did Gandhi say at the time of independence. He has led the national movement for almost 30 years. Okay, but what message did Gandhi give at the time of Indian independence is one question which comes to our mind, sir. But the thing is, when Gandhi was asked to give a message to the newborn nation, he was present in Kolkata, okay, the city where the communal riots were very, very brutal. And when the question was put forward to him, what he did is, he stated that I don't have any message to give my country. I don't have any message to give to my country. In fact, he stated that I have ran out of messages, because he was so much disillusioned by the communal riots, sir, because of which he did not give any message. And Nehru, taking this opportunity in the Constituent Assembly, okay, at the midnight of the 15th August, okay, what he did is, he gave a brilliant speech called Tryst with Destiny speech, sir. Okay, so and when this speech is being given, there were communal riots across the country, and lakhs of people are butchered in the communal violence during the speech of Tryst with. I mean, when the speech was given in that context, lakhs of people were killed, sir. Understand this carefully. So now, when you look at this Tryst with Destiny speech, we need not remember every point of the Tryst with Destiny speech, sir. But at least some prominent ideas, they will guide us, okay, with respect to whether we are able to achieve the aims which have been put forward by the Indian constitutional makers. Okay, so and in this Tryst with Destiny speech, what he did is, he stated long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny. Tryst means contract. Then at the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to light and freedom, life and freedom. Then the achievement we celebrate today is but a step, an opening of opportunity to the greater triumphs and achievements that await us. Okay, then he states that the service of India means the service of the millions who suffer. It means the ending of poverty, ignorance and disease and inequality of opportunity, sir. He clearly states his socialist ideology in Tryst with Destiny speech, sir. Then uske baad mein, he also talks about how he wants to create India as a welfare state, sir. And he says that his aim is to wipe every tear from every eye. Okay, but the problem here is, okay, some people are inherently sad, always crying. Can you wipe the tears of the people who are inherently sad, sir? Naturally, you cannot do that. Okay, but his aim was to create a country without suffering, sir. And this was his aim of a welfare state. Then along with that, he also states one more thing, Okay, in fact, he talks about international cooperation in his speech, sir. Okay, he says that the world cannot be fragmented and we are going to work for international cooperation is one more statement of his. Then he also gives a reference to the father of nations, sir. Okay, and he also gives a thank you note to the freedom fighters, and he also states that partition is only a political division, sir. This is in fact very interesting observation of Nehru. In fact, Nehru and Gandhi, when they accepted for the partition of the country, they expected that in the future, okay, all the subparts of India, they are going to rejoin into the Indian Union. They are a very idealistic opinion about this, and they felt that after Indian independence, okay, the partition is going to become irrelevant as the Indian society is going to again maintain good relation with Pakistan is his idea, sir. Okay, but definitely they should watch the Indian cricket match, sir. India-Pakistan cricket match, then they will understand that their aspiration of, okay, partition being only a political division, it will look like a fool's dream, sir. Is it true or not? Okay, it looks like a fool's dream. So it was, in fact, it definitely looked like a fool's dream. And what happened is this partition related partition, which they anticipated to be merely a political division, it became a permanent division between India and Pakistan, sir. Clear? Then after this, the next one is, so he, in fact, he also says that, okay, his aim is to make Indians, okay, so make all the people of India what destiny intended them to be, sir. Okay, in fact, he talks about how he wants every Indian to live to their full potential. So iske बारे में बात किया उसने. And finally, the last one is, okay, he also clearly reflected an anti-communal outlook in the end stages of his Tryst with Destiny speech. Clear? Okay, so these are the things which were done by Nehru. So in fact, he has given a extended speech which is called as Tryst with Destiny speech in order to proclaim Indian independence from the British colonial rule, sir. Clear? Okay, this is one important topic. Then after this, the next thing that we need to talk about is, we need to talk about the challenges for independent India. Okay, the challenges which independent India faced after its creation. What are the challenges that we faced, sir? Okay, primarily because the premiership of India during the initial years of Indian independence, it was not a gift, sir. It is in fact a curse. Okay, primarily because India had so many problems of its own, and these problems we are going to classify them into immediate problems, then, okay, medium term problems and long term problems. Okay, so in fact, within 6 months of independence of India, sir, okay, India independent हो गया, उसके 6 महीने हुआ था. Okay, within 6 months, what happened is the father of nation, that is Gandhi ji, he was assassinated. Yes, okay, by January 30 of 1948, he was assassinated by Nathuram Godse. The first and immediate challenge is, immediately post-independence, we saw the assassination of the father of nation, sir. Okay, and any person for whom the father is not there. Okay, and along with that, India never designated any woman as mother of India. So when there is no father and mother, the country will become orphan. Yes, okay, India definitely was an orphan at its birth, sir. Okay, because the most important political personality, okay, so Gandhi, he died, and along with that, India was facing numerous immediate challenges, sir. And of these immediate challenges, one is the partition and its related communal violence, which led to nearly 4.3 million casualties in India, sir. 4.3 million casualties, of which 2 million people are recorded dead, and 2.3 million people became permanently missing people with partition, sir. Okay, this is one of the most brutal communal butchering which happened, and this communal butchering, it happened in a very short span of time, sir. Understand this. Okay, in fact, Hitler took, in order to kill 6 million Jews, he has taken a time period of nearly 6 to 7 years, sir. But during the partition related violence of India, okay, within a span of 3 to 4 months, nearly 4.3 million people were killed, sir. Then apart from the killing of 4.3 million people, okay, the people who are responsible for this mass murder, okay, they were not prosecuted in either Pakistan or in India, sir. These are the crimes which have been whitewashed. आपको समझ में आ रहा है मैं क्या बोल रहा हूं? At least for the Nazi criminals, there was trials and they were punished at the end of Second World War, sir. But in India, the people who are involved in the communal violence, they were never prosecuted, sir. In fact, many of them, they became ministers in post-independent India. And in Pakistan, they became even the prime ministers too, sir. Are you following this? Then apart from that, within a span of 3 months, India was forced to handle nearly 15 million immigrants from across the boundary, sir. 15 million is what, sir? 1.5 crore people, they have to be resettled, and they have migrated from one side of the boundary to the other side within a span of 3 months. See how brutal this is. Then apart from the immigrants, one more major immediate challenge for India is the integration of princely states. Hey, Kinay, sir. Integration of princely states is a major challenge for India because 40% of the geographical territory of India, 23% of its population is present in the princely states. Agar wo log ko integrate nahi kiya to, then there will be a huge problem. Then along with that, there is also the issue of administrative and political stability. Primarily because many newly independent countries across the world, they have been toppled by the military of the countries, right? है कि नहीं सर? बहुत जगह पे military ने topple किया government को. And in Indian case, we were definitely an exception in the global history, sir. Primarily because most of the constitutions, they did not survive even for 20 years. The average life expectancy of the constitution is just 20 years. But the Indian constitution, it has survived for 70 years, sir, which is an outlier. Then apart from that, one more problem is the Britishers have left behind numerous problems of poverty, famine, agriculture was very backward, industry was not present. ये सब problem भी हमको face करना पड़ेगा ना. So these are some of the other issues which India faced. Then apart from these issues, one more thing that created a huge challenge for India is the communist revolutions which happened in India, sir. Understand this carefully. Communist revolution, and the first communist revolution in India, it is not the Naxal movement, sir. In fact, it started in the year 1948 in the state of Hyderabad, when the communist guerrillas, they declared the Indian independence to be false independence, sir. They felt that the Indian independence is merely a political independence but not socio-economic independence. And they said that we are going to create a country which gives socio-economic independence to its people. Understand this carefully, sir. And in order to give this socio-economic independence itself, what these people did is they declared that a Ajadi duty hai. It means that this independence is false independence, and by bringing about a revolt among the lower classes of Indian society, we are going to establish a real democracy in India. They started a revolution in Hyderabad state, sir. And this revolution, it continued for 3 years in Hyderabad state, from 1948 to 1951. Finally, in 1951, the communists were convinced and they became part of the Indian election process. समझ में आ रहा है आप लोगों को? So these are some of the immediate challenges that we have faced. Then apart from that, we had some medium term challenges, which are not immediate, but we had the challenge of constitution making. And in many countries, the constitution making process, it led to division within the country. Yes or no, sir? In many countries, even though they became independent, the constitution making itself became very prolonged, or it was postponed. Take the case of Pakistan, sir. So Pakistan also was created along with India. But it took 9 years for the Pakistani Constituent Assembly to create a constitution for themselves. In fact, we are far better. We did it in 1/3 the time. Then along with taking 9 years, once the constitution is enacted for Pakistan, it was immediately, without any delay, within a span of 1 year, the constitution was overthrown by the military, sir. पहले जनरल इलेक्शन के लिए उन लोगों को 10 साल रुकना पड़ा. And our first general elections, they occurred in 1951, just 3 years after the Indian independence. हमारा तो achievement बहुत सही है. So, but the constitution making, before it was made, it was a challenging task for us, sir. Because there were so many debates in the Constituent Assembly. There was no agreement on some issues. So that also led to some controversy. Then conducting the first general election is also a major issue, primarily because the Western countries, when we enacted a constitution with a universal adult franchise, most of the Western scholars and Western countries, they strongly believed that India is not going to survive as a nation for more than 20 years. They said it very clearly. 20 साल से ज़्यादा ये देश नहीं बच पाए. Why? Because the voting right is given to the illiterate population of India. Voting right is given to the illiterate population. And how can you know that they will exercise this democratic right of voting responsibly? Responsibility से वो लोग एक्सरसाइज करेंगे बोल के क्या गारंटी था? They could have voted a complete communal leader to power. then the country would have self-destructed itself. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? So that is the reason why when we extended the voting right to the people, the West, okay, in fact, they stated that this is not going to work in India. But the Indian electorate, they have shown substantial maturity after independence. Because the Indian public were actively involved in the Indian national movement. So we displayed a lot of maturity. We voted for the right kind of leaders. You following this? Okay, so this was something which was very, very important, the first general election. In fact, in order to, okay, in no other country in the world, elections are conducted on the basis of symbols. Okay, but in India, because the people are illiterate, the government was forced to include symbols with the names in order to vote for the people. आपको समझ में आ रहा है मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ? So this is one more thing that happened during the first general election. Then after the first general election, the second major issue is land reforms in India. Primarily because the Britishers have left behind in India a highly skewed land ownership structure, sir, wherein nearly 70% of the agricultural land is owned by non-agrarian classes in India, sir. Okay, 17% से ज़्यादा percent को, okay, the agricultural land ownership is in the hands of the people who are not involved in agriculture. And land reforms, it became a major issue in post-independent India. Then apart from land reforms, okay, the next issue which created a controversy is need to have a look at the long-term problems which India faced, sir. Okay, if you came to study, you can go inside. Okay, there is one more room. Okay. No, this is last class, first day's class. हो गया ना आपका? हाँ, तो अंदर बैठ लीजिए. Okay, so then after this, the next one is the long-term aim of the or long-term challenges which India faced, sir. Okay, one long-term challenge that we had is nation building, because no other country in the world has ever been created with the kind of diversity that India has. Okay, हमारा जितना diversity से के हिसाब से कोई country कभी setup भी नहीं हुआ, sir. Okay, so because of which reason we had to fight for the unity in diversity ideal. Yes. Then apart from fighting for the unity in diversity ideal, okay, so one more thing that was a long-term challenge for India is economic planning, sir. Okay, economic planning is one more thing that Indian government has adopted to. In order to pull India out of poverty itself, we went for planned model of economic development. Then conducting foreign policy is also a challenge, because India became independent during the time when the world was divided into two halves in the name of Cold War. तो वैसा टाइम पे अगर इंडिपेंडेंट हो गए तो आपको बहुत प्रॉब्लम होगा, सर. Okay, then उसके साथ में the last one is, okay, in order to reach the expectations of the masses, sir. ये masses का expectations reach होने के लिए भी, okay, there was a lot of issue, primarily because the expectations of the masses, they have been aroused during the national movement, sir. Okay, so in my first half of the class, okay, which you might have seen, so there is a discussion between freedom and independence, right? Have you seen it? Okay, so freedom and independence के बीच में बहुत फर्क था, and the Indian masses expectations were highly aroused before the Indian independence, sir. And if any government which doesn't in fact meet these expectations, there is high possibility that the government will be toppled. समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं सर आप लोगों को? Yes, so because of these factors, these are some of the long-term challenges which India faced after its independence. So these are the important issues with respect to the Indian independence movement, sir. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the topic of partition, sir. मैं partition का topic को थोड़ा introduction करूँगा. So once I introduce the topic, okay, we'll wind up the class for today, because anyhow, whatever happened after that, I think I have taught in class. Yes, from the second day's class. Did you attend second day's class, sir? Yes. Okay, fine. Now just have a look at this. So when it comes to, okay, this issue of partition of India, okay, so in fact there are specific causes for partition, there is a course for partition, and there are consequences for partition, sir. Okay, three sections are there: causes, course, and consequences. So when it comes to this issue of partition of the country, sir, okay, partition is in fact a very, very important event in Indian history, sir, because it is dictating today also the nature of politics in both India and Pakistan. Then along with that, it is also dictating today too the nature of foreign relations between India and Pakistan, sir. Are you following this? And partition is considered to be one of the greatest human tragedy which has ever befallen on humanity. Okay, and it is such a brutal tragedy that, okay, it led to already, as I have told you, 15 million migrations, 4.3 million deaths. Okay, and then along with that, the worst people the people who suffered the most because of partition are women, sir. Okay, primarily because partition also involved abductions, rape of women, okay, murder of children. So there was no limit to the madness which people were at during the time of partition, sir. Okay, people were in complete communal frenzy and madness, and majority of the cities in India, okay, particularly in the northern part of India, they were divided into communal zones, sir. Okay, they were divided into communal zones, and the executions were very, very brutal, sir. So the executions were very, very brutal. So this way, okay, the city was, most of the cities were divided into the communal zones, and there was communal violence at its peak during the partition related violence, sir. Are you following this? Okay, and what exactly happened during this partition related violence? Okay, why did this happen? We need to have a look at it, sir. In fact, during medieval times in India, even though, okay, there was a lot of conflict between Islam and Hinduism, by the end of the medieval period in India, there developed a culture which is called as composite culture of India, sir. And this composite culture is a very, very important thing with respect to the medieval history of India, sir. Okay, and this composite culture was very clearly visible primarily because of the cohabitation of Hindus and Muslims in majority of the cities in India. They were living together. Then along with living together, okay, the composite culture is also represented in the development of this new language which is called as Urdu and Hindustani language. Okay, that is also a clear-cut reflection of this composite culture. And in numerous activities, Hindus and Muslims, they maintained very good relations during medieval times. Okay, and when the Britishers came also, they witnessed this composite culture of India. The coexistence of various cultures of India they have identified, and after this, in the 1857 revolt, sir, understand this carefully. So in the 1857 revolt itself, what happened is there was absolute Hindu-Muslim unity, and in order to break this Hindu-Muslim unity itself, post 1857 revolt, the Britishers started this policy of divide and rule, sir. Are you following this? And along with this policy of divide and rule, one more interesting thing that happened in India is, okay, so Britishers followed this policy of divide and rule, and one more thing that happened is in India, because of the socio-religious reforms also, the religious consciousness among the Indian people, it has increased, sir. Okay, so I think I might have told you already about Raja Ram Mohan Roy being the first person to use the term Hinduism. Before that, there is no term called Hindu, sir. Okay, Hinduism as a term is absent, but he is the one who started calling all the people of India who are non-Muslim, non-Buddhist, non-Christian as Hindus, who follow disparate religious beliefs. सबको मिला के हिंदू बोल के एक term देने वाला कौन था? Okay, it was Raja Ram Mohan Roy, sir. Are you following this? So then, apart from this, the socio-religious reforms also bred a religious identity among the people. The Muslim religious identity was promoted by Syed Ahmad Khan through his Aligarh movement, whereas the Hindu religious identity was promoted by leaders like Tilak. Okay, so then apart from Tilak, Lal Lajpat Rai. So these kind of people, they promoted the Hindu identity based politics, sir. And what the Britishers did is, the Britishers have in fact very effectively converted the social divisions of India into political conflicts. ये जो भी social divisions था, उसको political conflicts की तरह से उन लोग ने बदल दिया, sir. And these political conflicts, when you see, okay, these political conflicts, okay, they are promoted primarily through a system which is called as separate electorate system between Hindus and Muslims, sir. And through the separate electorates, they were given, okay, voting rights separately distinct from each other. Okay, so it means that the Muslims can only vote for the Muslims and the Hindus can only vote for the Hindus. Okay, so they segregated this, or they brought about the system of separate electorate. Our separate electorate के साथ में, okay, one more thing that happened during the British rule in India is the main demand for creation of a separate country for Muslims. It came out from the Muslim minority areas, but not from the Muslim majority areas. And the Muslim minority areas में, the main demand for creation of a separate Pakistan, it came from the region of Uttar Pradesh. Whereas in the provinces which are today part of Pakistan and Bangladesh, the demand was very mild when compared to the demand of the UP Muslims. And finally, when the partition occurred, what happened is the UP Muslims were left behind in India, and the regions which did not strongly demand for separation of Pakistan, they became part of a separate country called Pakistan. Okay, so this is one very strange thing which happened in Indian history, sir. Then along with that, okay, one more major challenge is the attitude of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, sir. Okay, this person, he was a communal leader, and communalism means any politics which are conducted on the basis of religious identity, then it is called as communalism, sir. And this person, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he was not a religious person, sir. He never followed Islam in its true essence. He was married to a Hindu woman. Okay, he used to drink every day. He used to shave his beard. His life is Christian, but he followed politics which are based on Islamic identities. Are you following this? Politicization of religion is something which was done very effectively by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And what he did is, he projected the demand for Pakistan as going to be the ultimate solution for all the Muslims who are part of Pakistan. Okay, आपको जो भी प्रॉब्लम है वो पार्टीशन से सॉल्व हो जाएगा बोल के he over promised the demand of the idea of Pakistan, sir. ये सोच लीजिए. Okay, so that is the reason why, if you see, did creation of Pakistan, did it lead to end of all problems for the Muslims of Pakistan, sir? They were in fact pushed into more problems. But this person, what he did, he promised that once Pakistan is created, अगर आपको आपके घर में बीबी मार रहे तो वो भी सॉल्व हो जाएगा. कैसे सॉल्व होगा सर? Even if your wife is beating you, okay, he said that it is going to be solved. But how will it solve? Okay, there was no logic in communal emotion, sir. This was a highly emotional movement. No logic. And you overpromised the promise of Pakistan, sir. Okay, that is the reason why after the creation of Pakistan, you see, even though he was declared as the father of nation, okay, his political party was not able to win any elections in Pakistan, sir. After Muhammad Ali Jinnah Muslim League, it became an irrelevant party in Pakistan. Then apart from becoming an irrelevant party, Muhammad Ali Jinnah himself, he died 13 months after the creation of Pakistan, sir. एक साल बचा वो बस. 13 months के बाद कैंसर आके खुद मर गया. Then apart from that, one more strong supporter of the creation of separate Pakistan is a Muslim from Uttar Pradesh region who is called as Liaquat Ali Khan, sir. And he became the Prime Minister of Pakistan. वो तो यूपी का मुस्लिम था. जाके, okay, he became the Prime Minister of Pakistan. But when he became the Prime Minister of Pakistan, he was assassinated by the Pakistan military. 1951 itself. Okay, 2 साल में वो खुद आदमी वो भी मर गया. Okay, so within 3 years span, he also died. Okay, then along with that, the Indian Muslims who have migrated into Pakistan, they were being discriminated by the local Muslims of Pakistan, sir. Understand this carefully. By the local Muslims of Pakistan, these new migrants are called as Muhajirs, and these Muhajirs were continuously discriminated in Pakistan. Even today, the Bihari and UP Muslims are discriminated against in Pakistan. Are you following this? Okay, in fact, the problem here is when the proposal of Pakistan was made, the idea of Pakistan is, okay, when it was proposed, it was supposed to include Punjab, Afghan province, Kashmir, and Baluchistan, sir. Are you following this? So it was supposed to include Baluchistan. But is there any mention of the Bengal province here, sir? Bengal province का mention हुआ क्या? Bengal means Bangladesh province. There was no mention of Bangladesh in the initial proposal of Pakistan, sir. Okay, the creation of East Pakistan or today's Bangladesh, it is like, okay, 2 people fighting against each other. Okay, और तीसरा आदमी बाहर से देख रहा था. Okay, और ये 2 लोग लड़ रहे थे. Okay, बीचों बीच उसको भी 2-3 लात पड़ गए. That is how the creation of East Pakistan or Bangladesh happened, sir. Okay, there was no inclusion of Bengal when the Pakistan proposal was made first. Then, in Punjab province, which was being demanded for Pakistan, understand this carefully, sir. In Punjab province, nearly 60% of the population are Muslim, whereas 40% of the population are Hindu and Sikh. Will they be interested in going to Pakistan, sir? No. Then the second province is this province which is called as Afghan province. And in this Afghan province is nothing but the northwest frontier province of India, sir. And this province, it is dominated by the Pashtun tribals. And these Pashtun tribals, they were more pro-India than pro-Pakistan, sir. In fact, one of the most popular Northwest Frontier Province leader is this person by the name of Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, and he is called as Frontier Gandhi, and he is a strong supporter of pro-India faction. Then after this, at least K is Kashmir, but Kashmir became part of India, which makes Pakistan into Pakistan. Are you following this, sir? Their name itself is, there is no justification. समझ में आ रहा है आप लोगों को? So then उसके साथ साथ में Baluchistan was a very big princely state during British rule in India, sir. और ये बलूचिस्तान प्रोविंस का किंग को पाकिस्तान में ज्वाइन होने के लिए कोई दिलचस्पी नहीं था, सर. He did not like the idea of joining into Pakistan. So बलूचिस्तान में भी प्रॉब्लम है. So this way, the very idea of Pakistan, it was in fact a make-believe, sir. Make-believe means like magic. The people of the particular provinces which became part of Pakistan, they never anticipated that Pakistan is going to become a reality. But just like the magician pulls out a rabbit from the hat, Jinnah has pulled out Pakistan from India, sir. Are you understanding this? Okay, so this was one major limitation of Pakistan. So that is the reason why the national unity forces in Pakistan are very weak today, sir. Primarily because they created a country on the basis of religious identity, but in this religious identity also 60 million, nearly 40% of the Muslims are left behind in India. Then how can you call yourself as a religious identity based nationalism? एक गलत है. Then उसके साथ साथ में except for the common religion among the people, there was no other unifying factor among the people of Pakistan, sir. This led to the breakdown of the country. So within 30 years of its independence, it lost 60% of its population. Nearly 40% of territory it lost to Bangladesh. समझ में आ रहा है आप लोगों को? Then उसके बाद भी आज भी the Pashtuns, they want to separate from Pakistan. They want to create a separate country from themselves, which is called as Pashtunistan. They want to create. Then उसके साथ साथ में the Baluchi people are also demanding independence for separation from Pakistan. आपको समझ आ रहा है सर मैं क्या बोल रहा हूं? So this way, the demand, the very idea of Pakistan, it was not a thing which is strongly supported by the realistic circumstances of India at that point of time, sir. But because of the British pressure, because of the inability of Indian National Congress to, sir, primarily because Indian National Congress, on the basis of its ideas of secularism, it was excessively critical of the Muslim League, sir, and its leadership. But at the same time, Indian National Congress was not able to reach out to the Muslim masses, sir. अगर आपको पॉपुलैरिटी रहना है तो either among the people you have to be popular or among the leadership you have to be popular, sir. But you are not popular among either the leadership or among the people. So then what will happen? Then only this kind of events like partition will happen, right? Are you following this? But partition is a huge curse for the subcontinent, sir. Primarily because the division between India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, they are not based on natural frontiers. They are based on man-made boundaries between these countries, sir. And it is immensely difficult to guard these man-made boundaries. And this led to a artificial division of the subcontinent. आप समझ लीजिए इसके बारे में. So this is very important. Then along with that, while partitioning the country, they did not just partition the geography, sir. They partitioned, the bureaucracy. They partitioned the military. And in the British Indian military, 30% of the population was Muslim population, sir. So Pakistan, it was left with less people, less geographical territory, but with more military. And Pakistan initially felt that they celebrated. Yeah, हमको बहुत military मिल गया, बहुत equipment मिल गया, हमारा military तो बहुत शानदार है. Yeah, but that military which Pakistan considered as a strength for itself, it became a curse for Pakistan, sir. Because this over-numbered military, over-ambitious military, it in fact captured the political power in Pakistan. And apart from capturing the political power, what it did is, it gave a justification for itself in order to govern Pakistan by showing them the devil of India, sir. समझ में आ रहा है? So usually when, so kids don't eat food, mother threatens them saying that, some kind of boogeyman is going to come and capture them. Similarly, the Pakistan military is also showing the bogey of India in order to make their people accept their dictatorships. Okay, I think you might be knowing about the Imran Khan's toppling. Maybe the major role is played by the Pakistan military, sir. Is it true or not? है कि नहीं सर? इमरान खान का okay, जो कुछ भी हो रहा है पाकिस्तान में, so many assassination attempts on him. So why are these happening? Because all of them are the military supported assassination attempts, sir. Okay, so in fact, one of the prime ministers of Pakistan, he was hanged, sir. One prime minister by the name of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, he was hanged to death. Benazir Bhutto, she died in a bomb blast. Okay, then after that, now Imran Khan is being threatened. Liaquat Ali Khan, he is already killed. Pakistan had the most number of civilian leaders, okay, assassinated by its military, sir. आपको समझ में आ रहा है? तो इसलिए ओके, तो पूरा पार्टीशन हुआ था सिविल सर्विसेज का, मिलिट्री का, देन अलोंग विद दैट इवन ओके, सो द ऑफिस स्टेशनरी आल्सो आर पार्टीशन्ड, सर. And apart from the office stationery, they also partitioned the prisoners on the basis of their religious identity, sir. Okay, prisoner ठीक है फिर भी okay, so तब क्या था, बहुत पागलखाने थे okay, इंडिया में थे, पाकिस्तान में थे, और पागलखाने में जो लोग थे okay, they are more sane than the communal leaders of India and Pakistan, sir. And पागलखाने का लोग भी बांटा गया, sir. They even distributed the people who are present in the mental hospitals. Okay, in fact, there is a very famous story on the division of the patients in the mental hospital, sir. So, which is called as Toba Tek Singh Ka Kahani. So, you can read it. It is a very famous book, sir. It has been written by, what is the person's name? Okay, he is a very famous Pakistani Urdu writer, sir. He has written this book called Toba Teka Singh. Okay, so you can read that book, sir. So, it talks about how even the patients at the mental hospital also are not left behind. They also have been partitioned between India and Pakistan, sir. That was the kind of communal frenzy which in fact afflicted the people at that point of time, sir. समझ में आ रहा है? Okay, so these are all the things about the partition of the country. So in fact, I will not read through the handout, sir. Okay, because anyhow, most of you, should I read through the handout again? Not read through. That slide I'll show. Okay, that slide I'll show. So from here on, whatever has been discussed, I think I have, okay, so I have discussed as part of, I will discuss as part of the partition related history of India. Okay, so any questions still here, sir? Any questions? Okay, people should read a little more, okay, and come prepared for the class. Then definitely you will have some doubts and questions, sir. Okay. yes, but पॉलिटी में आया था, GS2, okay, GS2 में तो आया था क्वेश्चन. Okay, so these are the debates of the Constituent Assembly. Will you be able to write them down? Yes. Okay, so these are the debates of the Constituent Assembly. Any other questions, sir, from your side? Okay, so that's the case. This will finish off the discussion, sir. Okay, try to be a little regular to the classes. Okay, so and we will discuss more things in tomorrow's class. All right. Okay, so ठीक है sir.